I first met Sam in 1984, about 2 weeks after I had just come here as a new president. And the outgoing president, Sister Veronica Baxter, said, "There's one man that you must meet, and he's the first one I want you to meet." And so she took me in tow, and we marched into Sam Wheeler's office, and that was my first introduction to this wonderful man.
What 3 words best describe my father? First of all, integrity is the most important word. The second word is good listener. He's the kind of guy who's going to give you the time of day regardless of who you are. He's going to hear you out. And the third word I'd use to describe my father is also a hyphenated word, and it's no bull. You know exactly where you stand when you leave Sam Wheeler's office.
I have 4 words that best describe my father. Number 1, he's smart. He's direct, he's kind, and he's also tough.
What 3 words best describe Sam? I'd say giving, giving, and giving. He's just a very generous person.
The best 3 words to describe Sam Wheeler: a good man. 3 words, a good man. And that says everything you can about him.
You can't talk about Sam Wheeler and his 4 boys without going back to some of the camping trips we did years ago as a family. And I still look back on those as terrific memories. We had a lot of fun. And in retrospect, these many years later as a father, I can't believe he actually did that he took 4 little boys into the wilderness on his own. We must have just been impossible to deal with. And so I just got to say how much I appreciate those memories, knowing how hard it is to be a father.
Well, I have 4 sons. We think alike in a lot of ways. My oldest son is John. He lives most of the time in Portland in the Pearl District, he and his wife. My second son went to Stanford and got a PhD in electrical engineering. Third son is Ted Wheeler, who is the county commissioner. And the last son is Tom Wheeler, and he lives in California, in the Los Angeles area, and he's in the recycling business. We have 6 grandchildren, 3 boys, 3 girls, which is a nice change from having 4 boys.
He is a very warm and sensitive and caring man, and I'm very proud that he's my father.
I was born in Portland, and I lived within 60 miles of Portland almost all my life. I went to Gable School here. I went to Lincoln High, the old Lincoln High School where Portland State is. Got in the Army, drafted in the Korean War, spent all the time in the United States. I went to work for Willamette, got married, had 4 children, was involved mostly with forest products manufacturing. Enjoyed it very much.
Willamette Industries was formed by merging, really half a dozen companies. And one of them was Sandy M. Lumber Company that Sam Wheeler's father owned a portion of and operated. And then Willamette Valley Lumber Company was the company that hired my father ran.
I pretty much knew what I was going to do when I was in grade school. I was going to be in the lumber business some way, or logging, something like that, because in those days, people didn't have a lot of chances. It was in the Depression. If your father was a doctor, you better be a doctor. You knew something about it. You had a leg up. If he owned a shop or worked in a shop, that's what you did. When I came back from the Army, I went to work for Sandy M. Lumber Company. At that time, Willamette Valley Lumber Company and Sandy M. Lumber Company and some other people got in the plywood business, and I went over there, and since none of us knew anything about it, they had a good manager, and I became his assistant. And so I learned a little bit about plywood that way.
I think the characteristics that make Sam successful are the same characteristics that make Sam so lovable. He is intense, he is honest, he's focused, he works hard, but above all, I think his success comes from his warm heart.
My father, he became close friends with Robert Pamplin Sr. at Georgia Pacific. And Mr. Pamplin was used to giving money away in the mid-'60s and before. Approached Dad with that he thought the two of them should go together and give some money to a certain organization, and they thought he could do a lot of help doing that. And Dad got involved, and lo and behold, they made a difference.
Admire his social commitments and generosity.
Sam Wheeler is special because he gives of his substance, not just of his abundance.
By example, he taught me how you give back to the community. He doesn't just give money to good causes, although he certainly does that through the foundation. He gives his time and his energy.
There's a certain debt we owe to this area. This is where we made our money, and so we actually owe northwest part of Oregon and the southwest part of Washington part of what you might call a tithe to be part of this country. We used it, we logged it, and we need to give it whatever benefits that we can. And that's why our foundation is 99% local, I'd say.
You will not see a building with his name on it. That is not his thing. He gives his time and he gives his money, oftentimes anonymously.
About 20 years ago, I met who is now a very close friend of mine, Mitzi Ellis, and she'd done a lot of traveling. When we first met, she offered to take me and go to France, so I didn't even have a passport. I really enjoyed it.
You know, my father has several interests, and hiking is a strong interest of his, and at age 79, he also summited Mount Kilimanjaro. So walking and hiking are just something that's very, very important to him.
He didn't climb Everest, but he probably would have if he'd been 10 years younger.
Well, I like the outdoors. I don't think any place I've been has been as beautiful as Oregon.
Well, he loves to travel and he loves to hike, and usually he travels and hikes at the same time.
To the best of my knowledge, Sam Wheeler's never been to the moon, and so he's probably saving that one for later.
I guess I would say I value my health more than anything else. Another thing I value is simplicity. When I was young, I liked complicated things. I like to be in the thick of action and have a lot of distraction. I like to do one thing at a time now and take it easy. I enjoy quiet times, which fits me just fine.